My name is Rachel. I'm 21 years old, and I have this knot in my chest that hasn't gone away in months. Maybe years. It's like there's a storm sitting right under my ribs, waiting for me to stop pretending everything is fine so it can finally break. I keep asking myself when things started to crack. Because in the beginning, me and Jason, felt like lightning in a bottle. The kind of love that made me forget to breathe sometimes. He was funny in this quiet, clever way, the kind of man who didn't just walk into a room but seemed to change the air in it. He kissed me like he was memorizing me, held me like he believed I was something rare. Back then, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. Sunday mornings were slow and lazy, all tangled sheets and coffee cups that went cold on the nightstand. He'd pull me back into bed when I tried to get up, his lips warm against the back of my neck, whispering things that made my face burn in the best way. But that was years ago. Now, now it feels like there's a pane of glass between us. We still kiss. Technically. But it's quick, distracted, his phone buzzing on the counter while my arms hang awkwardly at my sides. Our hugs feel different too, like someone standing in line at the DMV touching you, because it's required, not because they want to. I didn't notice it right away. That's the scary part. At first, I told myself we were just tired. That married life meant comfort, and comfort wasn't bad. It wasn't supposed to feel like the ground shifting under your feet. It wasn't supposed to feel like you were disappearing slowly inside the life you built together. Jason started staying late at work. Said there were deadlines, meetings, projects only he could handle. And I believed him. Why wouldn't I? We were us. But then he stopped touching me the same way. Not completely, just enough to make me second-guess myself. His hand on my back when we passed in the kitchen felt more like a reflex than affection. When he kissed me goodnight, his lips barely lingered. Like he was checking off a box. I'd crawl into bed before him sometimes, pretending to be asleep because I couldn't stand lying there, waiting for him to reach for me and feeling nothing when he didn't. One night stands out. It was winter, bitter cold, the kind that gets into your bones. We were sitting on the couch under this old blanket we used to fight over when we were dating because it was so soft. He had his arm around me, but it felt empty. Like his mind was somewhere else entirely. Jason is a paramedic. That's the first thing you should know about him. His whole world is emergencies, flashing lights, frantic calls, lives hanging in the balance. He works 12-hour shifts, sometimes more, and comes home smelling like antiseptic and exhaustion. I used to love that about him, that steady, capable way he carried himself. Like no matter what happened, Jason could handle it. But somewhere along the way, I realized he was using that same armor with me. He was good at fixing bleeding wounds on strangers. Terrible at noticing the ones I was carrying inside. It started with small things. One night, he came home late, shoulders tight, smelling like rain and engine oil. I was sitting at the table waiting for him, cold pasta in front of me, scrolling through my phone so I wouldn't look like the kind of wife who stares at the door like a lost puppy. "Hey, babe," he said, leaning down to kiss my cheek before dropping his keys on the counter. I froze. Not because the kiss was bad, but because it felt like he was trying to patch something up quickly, like tossing a Band-Aid over a wound without cleaning it first. His lips were warm. My chest was ice. "Long day?" I asked. He nodded, already heading to the shower. The worst. "I'll tell you about it after I clean up." But by the time he came out, hair damp, smelling like soap and steam, his arm slid automatically around my waist like he always did, like muscle memory. And I hated myself for it, but I stiffened. He felt it. I know he did because his hand froze for half a second before rubbing my side like he could smooth the tension away. "You okay?" he asked. I wasn't. I wanted to tell him that I felt like furniture lately. Like a couch he collapsed on after work but never really looked at. That his touches felt heavier now, weighted with everything unsaid. But the words tangled in my throat because I could see he was trying. Jason always tries physically. Wrapping his arms around me while we watch TV. Pulling me close in bed even when I turn my back to him. Pressing kisses into my hair when I'm stirring something on the stove. And maybe some women would call that love. Maybe it is love. But I need more than skin on skin. I need him to see me. To want to talk to me. To ask why I'm lying awake at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling instead of touching me like I'm a problem he can solve with his hands. The misunderstanding grew like mold in the corners of our marriage. One night, I was washing dishes when he came up behind me, wrapping his arms tight around my waist, his mouth finding my neck. "Missed you today," he murmured. My eyes burned instantly because I wanted those words so badly, but they felt late somehow, like he was speaking them into a room already full of silence. "Jason," I said softly, water running over my hands, "can we just talk first? Please?" He pulled back like I'd slapped him. "Talk about what?" "I'm here, aren't I?" That was the problem. He thought showing up in body was the same as showing up in heart. And I didn't know how to explain that sometimes his hugs felt like walls instead of bridges. Later that night, we sat on opposite sides of the bed. Him scrolling on his phone, me watching the shadows crawl across the ceiling. I realized then that love doesn't always die in explosions. Sometimes it's a slow drowning, and neither of you notices until you're already under. The shift was slow at first, like a dimmer switch turning the light down one notch at a time. I stopped leaning into his kisses. That's how I knew something inside me was fraying. It wasn't on purpose. I wanted to feel the way I used to when Jason touched me, warm, dizzy, lit up from the inside. But lately, every time he reached for me, I felt this tightness in my chest. Like affection came with strings attached I didn't know how to untangle anymore. One Friday night, he came home earlier than usual. No uniform. Just jeans and a t-shirt, his hair mussed from the wind. He looked good. That kind of good that used to make me pause in the kitchen and just stare for a second when we were dating. "Hey, gorgeous," he said, dropping his keys and slipping behind me at the counter where I was chopping vegetables. His arms wrapped around me, his chest warm against my back. It should have felt nice. Comforting, even. But all I could think about was how long until his hands started moving lower. "Smells amazing," he murmured against my ear, kissing my cheek. "What's for dinner?" "Stir fry," I said, my voice coming out tighter than I meant. He didn't seem to notice. His hands squeezed my hips playfully before sliding around my waist. And there it was, the flinch I couldn't hide. Just a small, involuntary stiffening of my shoulders. But I knew he felt it because his arms froze for half a second before relaxing. "Ratch," he said softly, "you okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just trying not to cut my fingers off here." He chuckled, but it sounded uncertain. "Right. Got it." He let me go, grabbing a beer from the fridge instead. The guilt hit immediately, hot and sharp. Because I didn't want to push him away. I just didn't know how to stop feeling like every touch carried this weight now, this expectation I couldn't meet. Later, after dinner, we sat on the couch. He put his arm around me like he always did, fingers brushing absent-mindedly against my shoulder. I kept my eyes on the TV, barely breathing, waiting for that creeping discomfort to rise again. It did. He kissed my temple, slow and deliberate. "Love you," he whispered. I swallowed hard, because the words should have made me melt. Instead, they felt like they were bouncing off a wall I couldn't see but definitely felt between us. "Love you too," I said, automatic, hollow. He shifted then, tilting my chin toward him, kissing me full on the mouth. It wasn't rough. It wasn't demanding. It was Jason, my husband, kissing his wife. And I felt nothing. Not the flutter I used to get. Not even irritation. Just this dull ache in my chest, because I wanted so badly to want him the way I used to. He pulled back slowly, searching my face. "What's going on with you lately?" I shook my head. "I don't know." But I did. I just didn't have the words for it yet. Because in my mind, all I kept thinking was, why does everything have to turn into sex? It happened on a Tuesday night. Not during a fight, not after some big revelation, just a regular evening when neither of us saw it coming. Jason came home early, which was rare. He brought takeout from my favorite Thai place, the one with the spicy noodles I always order too hot to actually eat. He set the bags on the counter, smiling like he used to back when surprising me felt effortless. "Thought we could have a night together," he said. His tone was light, hopeful. And for a moment, I wanted to step into that hope with him, pretend we were okay, that we could sit at our kitchen table and laugh about work like we used to. We opened beers. He dished out the food, handing me a plate like this was normal, like we weren't living in a house where silence pressed into the corners like fog. Halfway through dinner, he reached across the table, resting his hand over mine. It should have been sweet. It should have felt like the kind of gesture that builds bridges. But instead, I froze. Because the second his thumb started tracing slow, absent-minded circles on my skin, I knew where this was headed. After dinner, he'd want to cuddle on the couch. Maybe kiss a little. Maybe more if I didn't flinch first. And before I could stop myself, the words spilled out, sharp and ugly. "Do you even see me anymore?" Jason blinked. "What? Or is this just a routine for you now?" My voice cracked on the last word. "You come home, you kiss me, you act like everything's fine, and then you touch me like that's supposed to fix everything we never talk about." He pulled his hand back slowly, his brow furrowing. "Rachel, what are you talking about?" And there it was, the confusion on his face, like I was speaking another language. I hated myself in that moment because I could see he hadn't expected this. He thought bringing dinner home, holding my hand, kissing my shoulder, that was love. That was enough. But it wasn't. Not for me. Not anymore. "I feel like I'm disappearing," I said, louder than I meant to. My throat felt tight, hot. Like I'm screaming inside this marriage, and you don't even hear me because you keep touching me instead of actually talking to me. His jaw clenched, and he set his fork down carefully, like the table between us was a minefield. "I work my ass off every day," he said, his voice low, steady, the way it gets when he's angry but trying not to show it. "I come home. I try to make time for you. I try to be close to you. And somehow that's me, what? Failing you." "Yes." The word tore out of me before I could stop it. "Because it feels like you're just checking boxes, Jason. Like the hugs, the kisses, the nights you actually come home early, they feel like obligations, not because you want me. And I can't keep pretending it's enough." Silence crashed between us. He stared at me for a long moment, his face tight, unreadable. Then he pushed back from the table, grabbing his keys. "Maybe you should figure out what you actually want," he said, his voice flat. The door shut behind him a moment later. And just like that, the house went still. I sat there, surrounded by cold noodles and empty beer bottles, shaking like I'd just broken something that couldn't be put back together. The guilt hit first, sharp, slicing through my anger. Because he didn't deserve all of it. Not like that. Then came the confusion, because part of me still wanted him to walk back through that door, wrap me up in his arms, promise me he saw me, really saw me. But mostly came the shame. Because I'd finally said it out loud. And now neither of us could pretend we didn't know. The days after that night felt strange, heavy. Like we were two people living in the same house, but speaking different languages. Jason didn't yell. He didn't slam doors or storm around like in the movies. He just stopped trying. He came home from work, dropped his keys on the counter, and asked if I'd eaten, nothing more, nothing less. The hugs vanished. The casual touches disappeared like they'd never existed. And the silence between us grew so thick I could almost see it in the air. It wasn't anger, not exactly. It was worse than that. It was distance. He slept on the far edge of the bed now, his back to me, like there was a line down the middle neither of us dared to cross. Sometimes I lay awake listening to his slow, steady breathing, wondering if he was awake too, staring at the wall, thinking about us. I missed him. God, I missed him so much it ached. Not just his arms around me or the warmth of his hand on my back. I missed the way he used to make me laugh until I cried. The way he looked at me when we first started dating, like he couldn't believe I was real. I caught him watching me sometimes when he thought I wasn't looking. There was something in his eyes I hadn't seen in a long time, not anger, not coldness. It was sadness. That wrecked me. Because for all my frustration, for all the ways I felt unseen, Jason wasn't the villain in our story. He was just a man trying to love me the way he knew how. A man who worked brutal hours, carried other people's tragedies home on his shoulders, and somehow thought holding me close at the end of the day was enough to keep us from falling apart. But it wasn't. And now he looked like someone bracing for impact, like he was waiting for me to tell him it was over. One night, I came into the living room and found him sitting on the couch, staring at the dark TV screen like he'd forgotten to turn it on. His shoulders were slumped, his hands clasped loosely in his lap. "Jason," I said softly. He looked up, eyes tired, guarded. "Yeah." I wanted to say so many things. "I miss you, I'm sorry, I don't know how we got here." But the words stuck like they always did, tangled somewhere between my chest and my throat. Instead, I sat beside him, leaving too much space between us, and asked about his day. He told me about a little boy who fell off his bike and broke his arm. How scared the kid was. How relieved his mom looked when Jason promised him it would be okay. And I thought, he can comfort strangers so easily. Why can't we find our way back to each other? The guilt sat heavy in my stomach that night. Because maybe I had pushed him too hard. Maybe I wanted too much. Maybe love wasn't supposed to feel like fireworks forever, and I was selfish for wanting more than routine and tired kisses. But as I watched him stand up, mumble goodnight, and disappear into the bedroom without looking back, one thing settled sharp and clear inside me. I had to decide. Either fight for us or stop pretending I would. I guess this is where I tell you how it all ended. My name is Rachel. I'm 34. And somewhere along the way, I became the woman who watched her marriage crumble like it was happening to someone else. Jason didn't stay. I know, it's easier to believe stories like this end with some big reconciliation. The kind where someone chases someone through an airport, where two people realize it was all just a misunderstanding, and they kiss in the rain and go home together. But real life doesn't work like that. Real life ends with divorce papers signed in a quiet office with beige walls, a pen that doesn't write smoothly, and two people who used to know everything about each other sitting on opposite sides of a table because they don't know how to sit together anymore. People keep asking me why. Why didn't I fight harder? Why didn't we fix it? The truth? Because by the time I found the words to explain what I needed, there was too much distance between us for him to hear them. Jason wasn't a bad man. He wasn't cruel or unfaithful or careless.